Hi, it's Tuesday night at 6:30, so it's time again for What We're Reading. Tonight I've got a great dynamic duo from the Rockford branch. Mark is a librarian there, and Linda is part of his very successful and long-lasting book club at Rockford. How are you guys doing tonight?
Great, thank you.
Thanks for coming. So tell me about this book club. How long has it been going on?
We're in our 31st year.
Get out!
I know, right?
Oh, I haven't been
31
there that
years.
long.
Well, neither of us.
No, okay, good.
Are there any members who were there at the beginning?
Unfortunately, no, but they did leave a record of what they had read. And our very first book was Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe.
Oh, that's fabulous. I can't believe that book is that old. That is so funny. So, how long have you been at it, Mark?
I think 15 or 16 years, more or less. Uh-huh.
And Linda, how about you?
I think 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
Yes. Once
And
I started, I couldn't stop.
and how big a group is it? Because typically book club groups are kind of small.
Well, it kind of, right now, around 10 or 12 people.
That's a real good size.
Yeah, and a lot more people
Yes.
read the book,
Yes.
and people, a lot of people, the retirees are so busy that every single month that people don't make it every single month, but they read the book, and so.
I think in winter we must have 15. I mean, it gets a good crowd. A lot of
Now,
fun.
during COVID, did you guys meet virtually?
Yes. And it worked pretty well. I think there were probably members who weren't able to meet with Zoom. It just didn't work for them, but we held strong throughout the Zoom meetings.
Yeah. Now, are you meeting in person again?
Yes.
Yay. Well, that's exciting. What was your first book in person back?
Ooh, it was this last one, Braiding Sweetgrass, wasn't it?
No.
Oh, no. It was the John Meacham. Yeah.
Was it?
Oh, did we meet? Did we read that?
Uh,
Oh, I bet you're right.
uh,
It's been a while. We've
Has
been
it? Okay.
in person for a while, so
Yeah.
I think Mark's right. I bet it was back in April,
Yeah.
which would be Truth Worth Telling by Scott Peely, and boy, we sure enjoyed that one.
Did you? Okay.
Yes, we had a great discussion about that.
Well, I'm going to ask you first, and you each can answer this question. What has been your favorite book club book
This year,
ever?
It's so hard because there have been so many. Our last book was Braiding Sweetgrass, and I think that I would put that very
that was
close.
really good.
Mhm.
Wow, your last one was so great. Now, that's a core book, isn't it, Mark?
Yes, it is.
So the KDL Core Collection, where KDL stickers are best loved books for adults, and they've got a little KDL Core heart on the back. So if you're looking for a great read, grab a KDL Core book. But this is Braiding Sweetgrass. What was that one about?
That was written by a Native American woman who gave us insights into Native American history in a living fashion, so that you were with her, PhD biologist, and she's taking us through their native practices and applying it to current study science. And it was just delightful. There were vignettes and part of her personal life. Yes.
It was a braiding of
Yes.
of science
Yes.
and native traditions,
Yes.
and her own personal story, living, through all of that.
Yes.
Oh, that's so I love the way you put that, Mark. A braiding.
Yeah.
Well, those are the author's words.
Okay.
She talks about braiding the different parts of her life together.
Such a delightful way to learn about native practices, and maybe even get you thinking about what could we learn from this that we could apply today. And in our conversation, I would say every single book club member loved it. Every person. Sometimes we'll have books where it's like, I did, I didn't, but this one, 100%.
Now, would you say a successful book club book is one that the biggest number of people loved the book, or the one that brought out the most conversation?
I think it would be the one that drives the most thinking. So that I might have a book, for example, that I don't enjoy, but it's really made me think about issues, and I really have to think, why didn't I like it? Is this an area that I need to be more open, or am I just fine being closed-minded and I just didn't like it?
Or maybe the style?
Yes, right, right. And there are different genres that I don't particularly enjoy, but because of book club, it broadens my whole perspective, and I'm always glad to read things I didn't want to read. It, even if when I get done, I'm like, oh, I wouldn't recommend this to friends, but it still has been a very valuable experience for me.
Were there any books that were just clunkers that kind of was in agreement that this did not work well as a book club book? Can you think of any? It gives us all who do book clubs something to avoid.
Oh, that would be really hard for me to say, because we've had books that were excellent books, but our club members are maybe not in the mood because it's too involved at that time of the year, or they just read something too similar, or they really want to lighten up for the season. So it'd be really hard to pick one and say, don't
Gotcha.
anybody do this. Another club might just say, what were you thinking? This was the best book we ever had.
That's true. It's all a matter of taste and mood. I
Yes,
tell patrons that it's like food.
yes.
There's no perfect food. It depends on what you're in the mood for and what your tastes are, and it could vary with one person from one day to the next,
Yes.
what they want to read or what they want to eat.
Mhm.
Your book club, do you ever use the KDL's book club in a bag for your book club, Mark?
Mhm.
Yay.
Occasionally, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
For those people who don't know what that is, Mark, tell us what book club in a bag is.
It's a really spectacular program. It makes things so easy for people to find a book, and the book clubs in a bag are picked specifically. You know, they're books that suit a book discussion, and they come literally in a bag,
A big bag.
12 to 14 copies, and they include generally book discussion questions. So, and I think Penny's going to share the link, but it's available through our, through the catalog or through the website, and do a search for book club in a bag. There are nearly 300 titles, some of which I have to say I picked out, and and
The good ones.
yeah, absolutely, and yeah, it's just a great resource for your book group. So
So it is, you can find our book club in a bag information at kdl.org/book-club-bag, or just look under Discover the Library on our website, and you'll see under the heading Specialty Collections Book Club in a Bag. And you can go to our Kit Keeper page, and that is the way you reserve a book club. So you can reserve one for, say, a few months from now, and you get it in time. You want to order it so that everyone gets time to read the book. They can come and grab it, and it's an extended period of time that you have it for. I think it's about 6 weeks, isn't it, Mark?
mm-hmm. Yep.
Right, so you'll have it long enough. Keep track of who gets what book and bring them all back in the bag. So it is fabulous. And I have a book club in a bag right now for the Amy Van Andel Library, because our first fall book club is coming up, and we're reading Britt Bennett's Vanishing Half, so which I have already read and loved. And it is one that I want to talk about, and that is September 24th, which is a Friday, from noon to 1. So if anyone wants to join in on our new group, see, we don't have 31 years of history. I've got lots of catching up to do with the Rockford branch, because we've only been around since February. So come on out and start our own new group. So I'm going to ask you two a question I always ask, because this is my show. I'm going to start with Linda. Linda, what are you reading?
Oh, right now,
Yes.
I just today finished The Book Woman of Trouble Creek,
Oh,
by
I've heard so much
Kim
about that.
Richardson. Oh, you know, I don't usually focus on novels, and this was so good. It had things I'd never heard of. I'd never heard of Kentucky blue people, and that is a deficiency that caused some people to have blue skin. I never even heard of it, and I hadn't ever heard of book writers. I can't remember, like they would ride a mule or a pony or something, and they were book librarians. And like we have bookmobiles now, but in the 30s, it was just a really well told story. A friend recommended it from book club, and I was delighted to read that. Really good.
And I believe that one is available from Hoopla too. So you
Yeah.
can grab it anytime through the library if you do that. How about you, Mark? Same question. What are you reading?
Well, I don't generally read, pick out new fiction for myself, but a friend of mine knows about a personal obsession that I have with a woman named Leonora Carrington. And there's a brand new book out called Leonora in the Morning Light by somebody named Michaela Carter. And Leonora Carrington was a British born Mexican artist. And her life story is just beyond the pale. It's a life that it just defies belief. She came from an extremely wealthy British background. She was presented at court. She was expected to marry somebody to bring a title into the family. She was expected to marry a member of the nobility.
Well, aren't we all?
Yeah. But she literally escaped and she became an artist and she took up with the surrealists. So she was living in
Oh,
France. She was living in France, a very idyllic life, and she took up with the German surrealist Max Ernst. Well, uh, and they were living in France, a very idyllic life. And then, of course, the Nazis came along and just wrecked everything. And so they literally escaped. And Leonora Carrington escaped by a submarine. And
what?
oh, yeah. Oh, and Peggy Guggenheim helped to get a lot of these artists out of Europe. And at the time, the socialist government of Mexico, which was just recovering from the revolution of 1910, said that they would accept anyone escaping fascism. And so they took refugees, and many artists and writers took up residence in Mexico City, which changed the whole country,
I would think.
changed the culture, and and uh, uh, and she lived in Mexico for decades, where she became a national treasure. But this particular book is about that idyllic time in her life when she was living in France with Max Ernst and the Surrealists. So,
Now, Mark, you've told me, I think, before about another biography of her that you really like.
well, oddly enough, the last time I came onto this program, I talked about another Mexican author named Elena Poniatowska. Well,
Right.
Elena Poniatowska was good friends with Leonora.
Okay.
And she wrote a novel based on Leonora Carrington's life. So
Gotcha.
there is a connection there.
So I'm glad somebody grabbed that and handed it to you.
Yes.
So is it good? Does it do her justice?
Yes. It's a popular novel. It's historical fiction, and it just touches on one small part of Leonora's life. And but yes, it definitely does do that justice.
Terrific. Now, do you have at Rockford, Mark? Is there a book club coming up?
We read a variety of things.
Yes.
And our next book is a mystery called A Cold Day in Paradise by Steve Hamilton. And it's set in the Upper Peninsula.
Really?
It's set in the Upper Peninsula in Paradise, Michigan. And it's one of those hard-boiled detective stories, but with, a Michigan setting.
It's really fun. I read that a long time ago, and of course I'll reread it for book club. It's a fast read. I lived in the UP for a number of years, so this is really fun for me to go back to the UP via fiction.
Is it fun in a book club to mix it up and have some not so cerebral titles every once in a while?
Totally. Yes, it's a lot of fun, and it does expose you to different genre, something that you might not otherwise pick up. I think it's a great idea, and we've done a lot of mixing. Last year, didn't we have International Year?
Yeah, that's kind of a funny story, because there was, we toggle back and forth, and our rule, such as it is that we read a variety of things, some old, some new, fiction and nonfiction. But somebody kind of said, that the books that we were reading were too light, and which kind of shocked me at first. I think that it was too focused on the United States, a little too provincial. And at first my feelings were all hurt, and I'm like, oh, and then I thought,
you didn't do that.
And then I thought, well, why not have, for our 30th anniversary for our book club, have International Year? And people loved it. We read a variety of things, old, new, fiction, nonfiction, but it was, broad in scope.
It was wonderful. It was, and it exposed us to areas that we might not have read about otherwise. We read, I do have a list somewhere. The Girl Who Smiled Beads. Remember that one from Uganda? That girl and her sister? That was excellent.
That was good. I think my favorite one was something called Nectar in a Sieve.
Oh, that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Nectar in the Sieve?
Yes.
Nectar in a Sieve. And it was about living in India in the 1950s, and what it was like for people living in, small farming in rural India.
A poverty that we could not even imagine described, and the dealing with it and trying to make a life work in that kind of situation. Written in 1954. So, yeah, it was really good. And I like that Girls of Riyadh.
Yeah,
too.
That was clever.
Oh, you know what one I really liked is The Future is History by Masha Gessen, because that was about Russia, and some of that came into play in the news then afterward. And I think that Evan Osnos one too. Where is that one? Because I think that came into, maybe that was this year. Anyhow,
there
yeah,
it is.
okay. Age of Ambition, Facing Fortune, Truth, and Faith in the New China by Evan Osnos. That was excellent. Those are a little bit heavier books, but they were so worth the effort of reading and discussing, and it was
to broaden your knowledge, so
yes,
you know a little bit about what's the other countries that come into play and everything that's happening. That's a fabulous idea to have an International Year with your book club. Was everybody willing, or did you have any holdouts?
I think everyone was willing, and it brings it intensifies your learning when you can discuss it in book club. If you just read it on your own, you miss parts, or you don't understand parts, or skip over whatever. But when you're in the book club and you're discussing some of the issues from the book, it really intensifies that learning. It's really good.
Now, you guys, do you have a name for your book club, or is it just the Rockford Book Club?
Friday Book Club?
Friday Book Club it is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What time do you meet on Fridays?
1:30 in the afternoon. Yeah.
So I'm copying you doing a Friday afternoon book club. I thought I was original here in the Amy Van Andel branch.
31 years late.
And do you have room in your book club for if anyone wants to join you? Because this sounds so fabulous.
Yeah. We also always welcome new people.
And do you have to register for that, Mark, or can you just show up?
Show up.
No, I'm very much an anarchist when it comes to book club. I believe in not having any rules.
Yeah, that's true.
And everybody has something different.
Yep.
Everybody has something different to bring to the table. And like
Yep.
Linda just said, when you
Yep.
discuss a book in a group, it changes everything. Because if you read a
Yep.
book, there's this theory of literary criticism that kind of says that the only value a text has is what the reader brings to it. I think that that's kind of a stretch, but whenever we meet as a group, everybody has a different perspective on the book, and when you discuss it in a group and everybody contributes, it
Yes.
adds up to something that's greater than the sum of its
Right.
parts.
Right. And every person who volunteers to lead a discussion, and Mark by default has to pick them up if we don't, but we usually have someone volunteering, and they all have a different style. So some people go around and want everyone to answer in a row, and everyone has their own style. It makes it a lot more fun.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to steal that idea for our book club and Hill Branch too. Thank you for that. I am totally going to steal that. So is it monthly that you guys meet?
Mm-hmm.
And do you skip any days or seasons?
No. Sometimes we just have fewer people. It doesn't matter, if you're on vacation or whatever, it doesn't matter. And we have had one member who has Zoomed from Vietnam.
We did.
Yeah. Right. So some people just can't leave us.
Well, who could, and who picks the books?
We all do. Mark helps doing all the research. And then we go through and we say, well, I read that one, I really liked it, or I don't know if that sounds good, or I read a review about that. So then we all chip in on picking them, but Mark does all the work.
So Mark, do you bring like 20 books and make them pick 5, or how does that work?
Yeah, we pick them out for the year, and like I said, I believe in not having any rules in book club. But what I do is I put together a list of well, I try to bring some order to it. I say, well, in January let's read a mystery, in February let's read a romance, in March let's read this, and but it's just a guide. And then we decide by consensus. So under every month, like I picked out 3 international mysteries as possibilities. But we might pick one of the 3, or somebody might throw out another title. Right. We might read something else. So, and we're deciding, and if anybody wants to make a contribution, we're going to be deciding in September what our books are going to be for 2022.
And we're always encouraged to submit names of books, and sometimes we remember to do that and sometimes not.
But you're a whole year in advance. Do you run September to September?
Mm-hmm.
Like a school year?
Well, no.
January.
Well, we pick them out in September for 2022.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I'm going to learn a lot from you guys. Can I call you if we run into any trouble?
Yeah. Yeah, Mark's. You want Mark's number?
Well, it was so great talking to you guys. I understand why it's so much fun to go to your book club, because you're so much fun to talk to, and so positive.
Thanks, Penny. It's been fun.
So thank you. And I'll see everybody else to talk about books here on my show next week, Tuesday at 6:30. So I hope you'll join me again.